How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with Mark Stiles of Stiles Law and your host, Dr. Joe Schrand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dr. Joe Show.
Yeah, nailed it. Hey, welcome back, guys. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. How was it?
Amazing.
Yeah, and you know, I posted something on our page about, you know, in this time of truly unbearable sorrow, with so much loss and trauma in our country, we still have so much to be grateful for. The fact that we're here, the fact that we can remember those who we have lost with the love and affection. We had a grief specialist on to talk about this early on in the COVID pandemic. And he said that, you know, grief is simply an expression of how much you love someone. And there is no pathology. There is no pathology. So for all of those who had their Thanksgiving tables with one less chair, we are with you. We are with you. And we are grateful and thankful that we are all here to manage through this trauma. And so speaking of trauma, Tom, we have some incredible guests tonight to talk about the work that they are doing right here in Massachusetts and beyond. Can you introduce our guest tonight, Tom?
Oh, of course. We got an all-star cast tonight. We have Bishop Neil Anthony Boyd of Pioneer Valley Coalition for Suicide Prevention. We have Elizabeth Rigo, the Southeast team leader for MassSupport, and Larry Berkowitz, co-founder of Riverside Trauma Center. Welcome, guys.
Yeah. Welcome to the three of you. It is so wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much. Larry, let me start with you. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about Riverside and what you have helped to create and where we are now?
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe, and thanks for the invite here tonight. We're thrilled to be here. Riverside Community Care is a fairly large human services organization serving many parts of Massachusetts. About 15 years ago, my colleague Jim McCauley and I started the Riverside Trauma Center, which has been focused on a number of things. Our tagline is we help communities recover from highly stressful events, communities, individuals, workplaces, schools. So we do a lot of work, after potentially traumatic events, after the Boston Marathon bombing, for example, and what you'll be hearing about more tonight is the work we've been doing in our FEMA-funded program, which is called MassSupport, helping with the state's pandemic response, the behavioral health side of the pandemic response.
Let me just ask, sorry, some people might not know what FEMA is. Can you just say what FEMA is?
Sure. FEMA is thank you for calling me up on throwing letters around like that. Okay. That's good. We all do it. It's the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They're the folks who, you always hear about after there's been a hurricane somewhere, there's been a tornado, there's been flooding. FEMA helps fund states, communities to help them get back on their feet. And one of the pieces of it is this, what they call a crisis counseling program. Each state has an emergency management agency. So here in Massachusetts, we have MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. And in fact, the funding comes, as only a bureaucracy can do, through the federal government to FEMA, to Massachusetts Emergency Management, and then they partner with the Department of Mental Health here in Massachusetts, who contracts with us at Riverside to do the work that we've been doing around helping support people after the pandemic.
But it actually says a lot because Riverside is taking the lead in this, really. I mean, we've been asked to do the whole of Massachusetts with this. Am I missing something here?
No, we're honored, and you're right. The Department of Mental Health came to us and said, you guys have been doing this in this state for 15 years. We've actually had a couple of these kinds of programs, much smaller scale, after some flooding incidents, after the tornadoes you'll remember out in western part of the state, 2011. Neil was one of our outreach workers then and was highly engaged and involved with us. So we got him right on board again when we were asked to do this work. But we've got about 45 people working in the program now. We ramped up very quickly back in April to get things running when the state asked us if we would do this, if we would run the program for the state. So, yeah.
And so we have Liz Rigo here. So Liz, what's your role? And then Neil, we're going to get to you. So Liz?
So thank you for having me on your show. I'm the Southeast team leader for MassSupport. So I'm taking care of all of Southeast and Cape and Islands area, reaching out to, state agencies and advocates and state legislators just to get the word out on what MassSupport is doing during this time to help individuals and the community, get some resources, maybe just, help them feel some sort of comfort throughout this period. So doing a lot of work that way, a lot of things going on with MassSupport, a lot of good things.
I bet. And we're going to dive deeper into that. And Neil, what about you?
I'm in Western Mass here, up in Springfield area. So I'm an outreach crisis counselor with the MassSupport team. As you heard Larry say before, I worked a tornado. So what we did at that time, it was called psychological first aid that we did. That's in traumatic disasters. Basically, we was teaching people how to become, if there's such a thing as normal after a traumatic disaster. Now we do what we call SBR, helping people, giving them skills on how to cope with things, teaching them how to cope with the situation, how to handle things. That's basically the teaching we're doing right now. That's from churches to the beat of the streets here in Springfield. You're talking about city officials. You're talking about hitting everybody in every part of Western Mass, starting with the mayors. That's what we did. We called everybody, state legislators in every town, to let them know what we're doing and how we can be a help to them. Let them know we're here, basically.
And you used the letters SBR. Did I hear that right?
SPR.
And what is that?
That's a Skills for Psychological Recovery. It's a model that we use, helping people to recover. COVID-19, as you know, has affected everybody in some type of way, and even more so now, especially here, that this second surge is happening. So we're doing our best to get out here and let people know we're available, and plus that the service is free. That means a lot when people know that.
Yeah, that really helps. Let's just go right to it, Larry. How do people actually access this?
Yeah, great question. It's interesting. The traditional model that FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, in their crisis counseling programs has is, after a tornado, after a hurricane, after a flood, they set up the program, and the outreach folks typically, go in pairs. They go knocking on doors, door to door. How you doing? How are your kids? How's your family? Anything we can help you with? But we can't do that now, right? We can't be right up front and close with people. So we're trying to find other ways. We've got a statewide phone number that we're trying to get out there so that people know about it. We've got our website, MassSupport. The name of the program is MassSupport, MassSupport.org, which has some resources, some information, has the phone number. People can, through that, they can email us, they can call us. But, I wish more people were picking up the phone and saying, hey, I need to check in. I need a little support. But people don't always like doing that, right? I'm sure you talk about this a lot on your show, Dr. Joe, that, if we have an intense headache, if we have an intense stomach ache, we pick up the phone, we call the doctor, we go to see a nurse or something. But when people are struggling with emotional stuff, they figure, this is some kind of like character issue or something. They don't reach out as much. So what we've been trying to do is find other ways to connect with people. So we're using social media. We're using a lot of Zoom, right? Like this on the Facebook part of your show. We are having town hall meetings where we're inviting guest experts, where we're having everyday people talk about their experiences, about what's helping. We've got one coming up soon on housing, how to help people with the housing issues, that are coming up. A lot of people are really worried. Are they going to get evicted? What if they can't pay the rent? How can they apply for, support and substance? We had a show on a couple of weeks ago about just dealing with the holidays, right? How are we, you started off talking about how these holidays are different, right? And that comes with a bunch of losses. Yeah, we're grateful for things, but there's still a lot of losses in that. So how are we managing that? So we're trying to get a lot of information out in different ways. Support groups, all kinds of different ways. And we're trying to be thoughtful to do this in a bunch of different languages too. because in Massachusetts, we've got lots of communities that speak different languages. Liz, I should ask you to talk about you're setting up one of the town halls meetings pretty soon. That's going to be in Portuguese, right?
So we're working on that, and we're hoping it's sometime in January, and it will be done in Portuguese.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because go on.
Sorry, the town hall that Larry was talking about is December 15th at 7:00. The one that he just mentioned about housing. And we have some really good, great guest speakers coming from the Attorney General's office to talk about housing, evictions. So it's going to be a great town hall.
And that's going to be through Zoom, so people can access that?
Yes, it will be through Zoom on Facebook. I believe it's going to be Facebook Live. And then actually 2 days after that, we're going to be doing it in Spanish as well. Same topic. So we're covering it in English, Spanish, and Portuguese.
I think that's wonderful because, you know, this COVID is not confined to one group or another, certainly. And one of the things that we were talking about off air, guys, was why aren't more people accessing this remarkable free service? Neil, you were about to say something about NAMI, Nationalized Mental Health.
Yes, I'm the former president of Western Mass NAMI as well as the state. And the stigma is still alive when it comes to mental health. And people still have that thing about, ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm not going to call. You know, but it's got nothing to do with that. If we all have different things in our life, and it's good to have support, somebody we can share with. That gives us great relief. So we really encourage people to call. It's anonymous. Don't have to leave a phone number. You don't even have to tell us your real name. We just want to help. That's all we want to do.
So what is the phone number for people to call? Who's got that? Larry, does somebody have that phone number?
Who's got it right in front of you?
It's a state number. The state number of statewide assistance is 888-215-4920. 888-215-4920.
Yeah, I wanted to repeat it because I'm sure a lot of people are going to need to hear it again and again. We'll post it as well on our Facebook page.
Now, people should know, Joe, when they call in, they're going to get our voicemail and leave a voicemail. And we're checking those voicemails Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So someone will get back to them after they, or they can email us too and find that. You can find that at the website we mentioned before, which is MassSupport. So there's 3 S's in there, Mass, M-A-S-S, support.org.
So we're getting some comments already on Facebook. Tom, you want to read this one off?
Yeah, we got from Leah Ann Inglis. What are your best suggestions for coping with the COVID crisis and such an uncertain future?
Who wants to take that? Larry, want to start, and then we'll just go through.
Yeah, you know, we probably could talk for hours about that. Just that simple question, because it's so important, right? How are we coping? What can we do to cope? You know, one of the sort of guiding principles we talk about when we talk about things that are potentially traumatic or extremely stressful at the Riverside Trauma Center, we often talk about trying to find ways to establish safety, predictability, and control. You know, when things feel out of control, which they do these days, right, often, we just try to find some ways of establishing safety, predictability, and control. So safety, you know, that's the wearing the mask. That's the keeping your hands clean. That's all the things that the public health folks have been telling us. How do we keep our families safe as best we can? You know, some people got to go out. They got to go to work. They got to get on the bus or the subway, you know, but you know, we're still all trying to do the best we can. Small changes, right? We do the little things that we can to keep things safe as we can. Predictability. You know, there's a lot we can't predict these days, but what can we build in? Let's keep our routines going. You know, I get up in the morning and, you know, I'm still going to brush my teeth and take a shower and shave and stuff and, you know, put on a decent shirt, even if it is my sweats, to sit down in front of the computer all day. Right. So let's keep some of those things that are predictable, you know, the same routines that we can, the things we know that we can count on, because there's a lot we can't. And control. What are the things we can control? You know, some things are out of our control, but let's focus on the things that we can control in our lives. So, you know, that's one of the principles that come to mind for me in terms of coping. I don't know what else. Neil, Liz, what else would you add?
No, I agree with that, Larry. I think that control piece is very important. And, you know, I sometimes talking to people, just having them, when it comes to coping, making these small attainable goals, you know, for the day, not so much for the week, but just for that day, for that moment, you know, helps a lot as well with coping and feeling safe and in control as well. So I think that's very important. And along with that, I think, you know, being able to, the 3 R's, right? Reflecting, regulation, and relaxation. That's so important during this time as well. And I feel like that's also a big component of, you know, coping through COVID as well.
Neil, your thoughts?
One for also the skills for psychological recovery is what we teach. It's not a mental health thing. It's really to promote self-efficacy for people, that they can learn how to cope and handle things. And it's not to solve, we're not trying to solve people's problems, but we help people find a way, you know, like Larry said, things they're doing, like for instance, self-care. Hey, play some music, take a walk. I mean, COVID is there, but it's still things we can do that we can feel normal and still feel alive. And those things are very important, because sometimes we get so caught up, we forget that, you know, we still have a life, we still can do things normally. You know, with some things we can do to feel good about who we are. And most of all, support. Knowing that we can have contacts with and still talk with people, because it's good to be able to talk with others and share.
So,
you know, I also think about resilience as I hear you folks talking. What are the things that help us be resilient as best we can? And one thing that comes to mind, the Navy SEALs looked into this once. You know, that's one of the toughest training programs to get through, right? But then they invest a lot in training their people to become SEALs. They used to lose a lot of people. So somebody had the brainstorm to interview some of the people that made it through and say, what's getting you through this incredibly tough training? And the people who are most successful broke everything down into little chunks at a time. How am I going to get through the next couple of hours? And then how am I going to get through the next few hours? You know, and Liz, you just said that. What am I going to do today? What are the things I can do today to stay in control of things, instead of letting it get so big? Like there's all these things that are going wrong that we got to deal with. Let's keep it a step at a time, right? Like you know, like our support programs talk about, right? One day at a time, and to take those pieces. And you know, the truth is sometimes we have to do some big planning in these times, but I think the more we can stay focused on just what's right in front of us and get through each piece. I often say, you know, each day I get up and I think to myself, all right, we're one day closer to the end of whatever all this is. You know.
I agree with that, Larry. And I also, when I'm talking to a group or individuals at this time, I like to focus on their strengths and their resiliency as well. You know, what's helped you in the past, you know, with coping through certain situations that you may have gone through, you know, and really focusing on their strengths, meeting the person where they're at, and then building that up to help them with coping strategies, I think is really important as well.
I have to say this because my Dr. Joe Show audience will say, why didn't you say this? Because you say, well, can I just comment on one thing, which is the word coping? And then not to disparage anything you're doing. I absolutely, you know, but for me, these words are so important. And Neil, it get back in part to what you're saying about mental illness, you know, and the word disorder. You know, we call things disordered. And as soon as you have disorder, you've got one group that's ordered and one group that isn't. And somehow that creates a stigma. But coping for me sounds like a person is just hanging on with their fingernails. Oh. And what I want is my folks to manage what's going to happen. I want them to have the ability to manage these feelings that you're talking about, not just cope with them, but to manage it. And I find that the word management is empowering. You can manage this stress. You can manage your life more than just cope. And so I've been talking, I'm sorry, guys, it's just me. I talk about this so much. But really, these small words are so important, and they send these messages to people that are so subtle. But you know what? Everything you said the safety, the predictability, the control, the 3 R's. These are ways that people can manage probably one of the greatest predators that we have all ever faced as a world. And that's what's activating this limbic response, this survival response in us. That's what's terrifying. We can't find the safety that we used to find. Yeah. Right? The predictability that we need so that we can at least I know what's going to happen now. Right? And that control the environment. Folks, you have control. Wear a mask. That small change can help you manage. The social distancing, which is not emotional distancing.
Okay, that's right. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm so glad. I wish they called it physical distancing. Because the last thing we need to do is social distance, right?
Absolutely, that's right. The way I say it, I've still got your back just 6 feet apart. So, but it's these things. So why do you think we need predictability in our lives? Neil, what do you think? Why predictability?
Well, that gives us a sense of peace, and also it's a place of safety. For us. I was thinking about, as you was talking, great point, Dr. Joe. SPR or skills for psychological recovery is based on gathering information on the client's needs. Mm-hmm. That's what it's based on. So if we get their needs and then we find their goals and their priorities in a collaborative process, then we can address those needs and identify them with them. And as you were saying, coping or take control. That's the whole idea, that they can take control of their life or their situation that it don't control them, especially when you're talking about COVID-19.
Absolutely. It's so true. And again, it's such important work that you guys are doing, because what are you really doing? You're reminding people that they're valuable. You're saying to them, you've got other people on your team. No one's doing this by themselves. You can't do this by yourself. That's why social distancing is not emotional distancing. We're in this together. And that's part of why, Riverside has been so important. I mean, full disclosure, I'm the chief medical officer of Riverside. I came over to Riverside because of this sense of respect and value.
Great place.
And where else, where better to find it than in our trauma work? And being able to recognize, folks, that it is perfectly normal to be anxious and sad and angry. And there is nothing wrong with any of these feelings. It's what you do with them that matters. It's really what you do with them that matters. So the anger part, showing up as domestic violence, not cool. Not cool. There are other ways that you can manage your anger. The depression, showing up as wanting to kill yourself, and the suicide part. Understandable, but you do not need to kill yourself to get through this. We can help with that. And then the anxiety. Who wouldn't be anxious if they're worried that they're going to catch a potentially life-threatening illness? It makes sense. But Larry, what I'm hearing is that we can normalize this and have people come out and get some help. So can you talk a little bit about that? How do we get people to come and get the help?
Yeah, that we're puzzling that one through too. Our hope is that people will talk to each other. They don't have to call us. They don't have to go see a shrink if they don't want to, but they should talk to their neighbors, their friends, their pastor, the people who are the people that support them. Where do they normally get support? We got to make sure we're staying connected.
Right, stay connected. What's the number? Give them the number and the website so that they can get to you.
Neil, you got that number right there?
Yes, that number is 888-215-4920. That's the statewide assistance call number with MassSupport. 888-215-4920.
And it's MassSupport.org, right?
Right. 3 S's in the middle there. MassSupport.org. Yep.
Right. And that's so subliminal. I love it. So look, we have 3 folks I want to just get to ask you things. The IM, has two rules. Remember, the IM is saying we're always doing the best we can with the potential of change to another IM. This is my current maximum potential. This is who I am. I matter. We're influenced by 4 domains: the home domain, the social domain, the biological domain of your brain and body, which is really active right now in COVID, and then the IC domain. How do I see myself? How I think other people see me. That's also active now because a lot of people worry that if they let people know that they're sad or worried, they'll be seen as less than. Not the case. We were there to help you. Because these 4 domains interconnect, a small change can have a big effect. You don't need to change everything. Just like Larry was saying earlier, these small things, you don't need to change everything. So I'm going to ask each of you in order, starting first with Elizabeth, then going to Neil, then going to Larry. What small change can you recommend to our listening audience that they can make so they can manage their way through COVID?
Well, I think like I mentioned before, I think just setting small, attainable goals, very small goals, and just taking them one step at a time. And not a week worth of goals. We're talking even just hour by hour. And I feel like that could help a lot.
Neil, small change.
Emma Dawson said, real self-care means giving yourself permission to take a pause or take a break. So to me, it's real important that you take a break through all this and do something different. Even if it's take a walk somewhere, even if it's just look at a good movie, and some popcorn. Do something just to relax and just say, forget it. I'm just going to relax myself, my mind, and, take it easy. That's self-care.
Great. Larry, your thoughts? Small change and a big effect.
Yeah, I think you'll hear we're all singing from the same choir here. But yeah, I think it is that taking small chunks, day at a time, small focus, not getting ourselves overwhelmed. And that the point I made about earlier, I think about gratitude too. The smiling at people, saying hello, saying thanks, just paying attention to, being grateful and sharing that with others.
Yeah. And folks, the small change may simply be picking up the phone and calling Riverside Community Care and our trauma folks. It's a small change that can have a huge effect. We're there to serve. We're there to help you. You're not alone in this. You're not alone. The other rule of the IM, because everybody's got one. Everybody's interested in what you think or feel about them. And you're a part of someone's home or social domain, and you know that it feels differently if you're treated with respect or disrespect. So you have an effect on someone's biological domain, the way you see them. This means you control no one, you influence everyone. You get to choose the kind of influence you want to be. We're going to go in the same order. Liz, I'm going to start with you, then go to Neil and Larry. So Liz, what kind of influence are you hoping to be?
I'm hoping to be inspirational, motivational, and positive.
Thank you. Neil?
That's a good point. I guess I was thinking about, I heard of Robert Morley. He said, to fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. I want to have that love that just spread abroad to people. Because when you love yourself, you glow from the inside. You attract people who love and respect and appreciate your energy because they can feel the vibes that's coming from you. So I want that great vibe of love to just generate and reach out to people and feel good when they're around me. Say, wow, you changed my attitude. You changed my spirit by the words you said. I just felt something different. Feel that love.
Yeah, that's great. Larry?
Man, Neil's a tough one to follow.
Yeah, sorry about that. How do you follow love? But
really,
what kind of influence you want to be, Larry? I mean, you started the whole trauma division of Riverside. I mean, powerful.
The influence I think I can bring, I try to bring to situations is to be, you talked about the physical, the biological piece, just being calm. When we're calm and connected and trying to connect with the people around us and near us, they become that way too. There's this, This mirroring we talk about. If I can figure out how to keep my body calm, my heart rate down, my breathing calm, so that I'm all grounded, and people around me are going to be a little more grounded too. So I work hard at that, and being connected with those people.
Yeah. I want to actually ask Tom and Mark as well. I've asked our guests this over and over. And Mark, how about you?
I'm right there with Neil. I want to bring that energy to people. So no matter what they're feeling, they're going to catch some of the energy that I'm giving off, which is, an optimistic, positive outlook on everything, regardless of where we're at with it. And hopefully that will help them. And you know what? Yes, this is making me feel somewhat anxious when I'm not normally an anxious person. And Dr. Joe, we've talked about this from the beginning of the COVID. When you're able to help ease someone's anxiety, it helps ease their own anxiety. So when I can spread that out, then it selfishly will help me as well.
Remember, folks, we all want the same thing. We just want to feel valued by somebody else. And at any and every moment, you can remind someone of their value. And whenever you do that, please feel value. So this is the time to do it. This will get us through COVID by reminding each other we're valuable and getting that call. Call Riverside Community Care. Get the help if you need it. Thanks for coming tonight, folks. Joe, appreciate it.